Hey guys, Seán here and welcome to episode 8 of the Any Given Runday podcast. I'm here joined once again with Eric, Conor and Aaron on shot. We're going straight into today's episode, and last week we talked a lot about people getting, like Conor was saying, in his endurance circuit and stuff like that, getting close to getting sick, and Eric was talking about zone 4, zone 5 heart rates. What we're going to talk about a little bit today, we're to kick off the podcast talking more about recovery strategies and how we're getting on there. And 2 weeks ago, Aaron, you were talking about the fact that you even looked at a foam roller and your calves were in bits after it. So how your first 5k run, you went straight onto the foam roller afterwards. Would you use the foam roller a lot, and how's that going for you?
So no, I did the first 5k run, I just kind of suffered the next day and probably the next 3, and then I realised this is actually really sore, and I started like hobbling into work. Wasn't able to really walk that properly.
You said that 2 episodes ago.
But so my calf was really bad in my right foot, and I don't know what it was. Just like it's slowly gotten better, but like I got on the foam roller with it the first time. I was just like, okay, this is gonna be sore now. This is gonna be sore. I just use one leg, put all my weight in one leg, and be grand. And it's like, oh no, 2 legs, and then eased it into it, and just like finally got it going. And I was like, okay, feels a bit better. And the next day it was a bit better, and then I've started to kind of do that after runs now, and it's just saves me.
You would use a foam roller after you run. You go straight into foam roller for a little bit, and then that's how you use it.
Just do that. Then I think like because your muscles warm, then that's my kind of idea of thinking behind it. I don't know if I should.
I'm not. No. You say as if I'm going to come at you with an argument like, well, the science says this. No, I'm not going to do that. I'll do it in 2-3 minutes. I'll talk to Aaron. I'll do it to Conor. But no. But the way I look at foam rollers is, actually, I'm going to do it right now. If it helps, if you find it helps you, then there's no issue. It's the same as stretching. There's not much studies done on whether stretching actually is good for you or not. Especially before you do a workout, and even afterwards, there's not many studies that conclude that stretching is great for you. But for some people, they need to stretch afterwards, and once they stretch after a session, they feel better mentally, physically, and they're able to go about their day. And if they don't get that stretch in, if they're delayed in time, they feel like they're stiff and they don't feel too good, and you're like, well, the science says that, you know, it shouldn't make a difference. But they're like, I know how I feel, I know how my body feels, and it feels better when I stretch. So who's right? I'd say the person that feels better going through that session. Whether it's placebo or not is irrelevant. The fact they feel better stretching, the fact that you feel better foam rolling, Aaron, after you do a run, and you're able to have that kind of, I'm not just going to go up, have a shower, whatever, you're in that mindset, get a bit of foam rolling in, get the body moving, I'm not sore afterwards doing that. Great, more power to you. You were saying, Conor, about just to switch gears a small bit on that. You put a post about guns, massage guns. I should emphasise. Yes, don't our Second Amendment and all this. Don't take our guns. No. What would you use that before training, after training, the same as Aaron, or what's going on?
Yeah, so look, I suppose even just to bring it back a step. So I mean, at the moment, my recovery, it's pretty, I suppose, kind of, it's pretty standard in the sense that I would have, from a product standpoint, I'd use a foam roller. So I have a really good one from is a trigger point or trigger point therapy, and it's a particularly hard one which I quite like, because it kind of really kind of digs into my muscles, and I find that really beneficial. I'd have a kind of a resistance band then as well, or a T-band, and then I usually use a sliotar as well for pinpointing the areas. But one thing that I've looked into recently is these percussive therapy guns, and for anyone that doesn't know what they are, it's basically like, it looks like a drill, and what it does is it's there's an attachment at the top which basically
like a tennis ball.
It's like a tennis ball, and it basically it moves in a way that that you can put it on your muscles, and it allows it basically to relax and release the lactic acid and the tension. So as someone who spent a lot of time on a foam roller, usually anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes after a session, because particularly after the hurling pitch sessions, my legs tend to be very heavy and muscles quite tight. Anything that I can do to improve that process is obviously going to be beneficial. Aside from that, we actually obviously recovery is paramount to to any kind of high performance, or even any non-high performance sport you play. But what we have for GA is we have a chart which basically outlines a number of activities that promote recovery. So things like drinking a protein shake or eating a high protein meal, having an Epsom salt bath or an ice bath, getting 7, 8 or 9 hours sleep, and it attributes points to them, to each of those activities. And the idea is that after a session or a match or a run, that you would do a certain amount of activities to qualify for 100 points. So I think, for example, 15 minutes of foam rolling is 10 points, drinking a protein shake is 20 points, a hot and cold shower is 15 points, an Epsom salt bath is 50 points, and then I think if you're lucky enough to get 9 hours sleep, that would be 50 points. Now I'll go on a limb here and say if I get 6.5 to 7, I'm doing really well. But we would obviously work through that, and look, for most people anyway, eating is generally something that you do anyway. But it is that you're kind of engaging in enough of the right activities to promote recovery. 20
minutes in a foam roller after a session. Talk us through that.
Yeah, it's painful. It's self-inflicted torture, and I stand by that.
No, I mean, like 20. I mean, I have a short attention span. 20 minutes on a foam roller.
Yeah.
What are you spending, like 10 minutes on a body part going through that, or?
So for me, I mean, I have to. So, and look, I mean, part of it comes down to the time of the year. I mean, at the moment, the ground that we're running in on, during a hurling session, it's incredibly dense, and soft. So when you're trying to push off for a sprint, you're having to engage your glutes and your calves and your hamstrings as well, to a level which later on in the year you probably won't. So when I finish a session, I tend to find that my calves and my hamstrings in particular are quite tight. So what I really do is and something I suppose that I've only learned really in the last couple of months, that recovery for me is and being able to perform at the level and in the manner that I want to, is crucial. So for me, what I do is I take those 20 minutes as soon as I can, and I'll work my way from my feet right the way up to my lower back, and I'll hit everything from my calves to obviously my hamstrings, my quads, my glutes, everything.
2-3 minutes on each muscle with the foam roller?
Yeah, so usually, I mean, sometimes I go a little bit longer, 5, but usually what I'll do is I'll do initially 2 to 3 minutes and move my way up, and then if there's something that's particularly tight still, I'll put a little bit more focus on that. I might bring the sliotar in, and kind of pinpoint areas that are particularly sore or tight. And again, that's kind of the idea of where the percussive therapy gun would come into play, because instead of you sitting on a foam roller or a sliotar for 20 minutes, you'd be able to sit down, and kind of just work your way through the body. And being able to pinpoint those spots as you go along.
And you use that gun for?
Well, I haven't bought it yet. I mean, I'm looking into it, and look, I suppose there's so many different products and brands in the market. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a minefield in terms of what you buy, and obviously there's a number of knockoffs as well. As far as I can see, there's a couple having researches, that are used by physios and sports teams. So Tim Tam is one, Hypervolt, that seem to produce really good products. There's a number of Irish brands as well that I've looked into. So I think it's something that I'll probably invest in. A bit like Eric, and you're watching me, you said something really good. It's like buy once, buy cheap, buy twice, exactly. So I'm kind of conscious that I don't want to do that, and I think that because of the level of activity that I'm undergoing at the moment, something like that, paying that little bit extra, is going to be beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, you hit a lot of great points there, especially I love that chart. We're getting different things in. I love how highly valued sleep is, because I think that's for me, it's the cheapest, most underutilised tool for recovery is sleep. But to get back to foam roller for a second, Eric, am I right in saying you'd use more foam roller at the start of a session rather than the end?
Yeah, I use it as a starter. More so, I'm terrible at stretching. Terrible. When I'm going on a run, the process is clothes on, shoes on, start, watch, go. And that's it. I'm terrible at stretching before a run. Something I'm trying to get better at. Particularly when I'm just trying to get a quick half-hour recovery run in, I'm like, it's going to be slow, but I need to kind of switch that focus. So the way I would do it is, before I go into any, particularly my big sessions where I'm going to be alternating pace from fast to slow, I will spend a lot of time on the Backballer foam roller machine. So I'll do my conditioning exercises and I'll do my single leg squats. I just find it kind of warms up the muscles, particularly in around the knees and ankles, that are going to take a beating for an hour and a half. And then I use Backballer just because it's, for me, brilliant. I'm a tall guy, my job requires a lot of sitting, standing, moving, a bit of everything, and I find that my lower back would take a lot of the strain as well, and a lot of the everyday things. So I think for me it is a fantastic utility tool in terms of getting everything. Like Aaron said, my calves, particularly when we got back into this process, I hadn't trained for a long time, went way back 8 weeks ago, to go at my calf was excruciating at the start, but it eases and the blood flow gets into it, it gets a bit easier. So I'd find probably I never time it. I just kind of start at the bottom and work my way up, and probably do a few push-ups in between, and just kind of a squat in between each kind of segment, just to break it up a little bit, and in a sense a little warm-up. I'm warming up my arms, my shoulders, my legs. I'm not doing like you guys are doing in terms of bench press and this and that. I'm just loosening the body and strengthening it in a light little way. But the foam roller I find essential, because I'm so bad at the stretching beforehand and stretching afterwards. I just think it is a great reset for the body. And
just on that, because you mentioned it's a backballer you use. So I've seen it. I know what it looks like. But but how do you find it compares to just a general foam roller?
Damn thing doesn't slide away from you.
It doesn't slide. You're based on this machine, and you move on it pretty much. So it's on kind of a slightly raised plastic platform, and there's two foam roller inlets, and you can adjust. There's two little adjustment positions. One is slightly higher than the other. Beauty about Backballer as well is it gives you the workouts, it shows you the position. Even on the side of it, there's printed pictures, one for your calves, one for your glutes, one for this, one for your back. I believe they have a lot more online. I haven't used them because of what I've found, and I'm lucky enough in the aquatic centre they have it on the wall. So I just work my way through a lot of the stuff. But it's, to me, that's the best part around it. It's quite big in terms of it'll take up a lot of space in a gear bag, and that's why I understand a lot of people have the other foam roller, because you can bring it through a session slightly easier. I see a lot of people now with gear bags and stuff, and the foam roller is through the sling of it essentially, and it's on it, so it's easy to bring. Whereas Backballer you wouldn't necessarily be bringing everywhere. So I can understand why people would bring that before a race and stuff to have one. It's the same principle. It's just I find that one is great, especially in a gym where you're surrounded by people on mats, and I'm long enough, so when I'm doing my IT band, I'm sliding nearly a metre one way and sliding a metre the other, you know, like the feeling. So, and the foam roller's running, but I find that the foam rolling definitely has changed, really helped me, particularly with the knees, the muscles above the knees, the hips, the lower back, and the calves as well. Like a lot of us have trouble with the calves, a lot of runs, the pounding, but it's just great for the recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I would use foam roller for a minute, 2 max. I couldn't go on longer, but I would use it when I walk into a gym. I get the Backballer out, and I would use it it's literally there just to help me warm up the muscles a small bit before I start doing my mobility, my activation thing. So I'd use it for my quads, hamstrings, calves, maybe a little bit the back, just to open up my chest a little bit, and then after that I'm into my my planks, shoulder taps, working the core, glutes and that kind of thing. And I'd use it basically just as a quick intro, just to ease me into the workout, have a little think about exactly what I'm doing ahead, just to set myself up, kind of like what I was talking about earlier in a previous episode with how I'd set myself up for running, getting the music playlist, Spotify going, something on the TV or that kind of thing. It's mad that we use it for all different things that works for us, and there's no one real right way, as long as it's something that's right for you
as well. It's how you feel, and the way I gauge do I need to do more on calves or not is how sore are they. So if they're quite sore, I'll spend the time until they're no longer as sore, and that's how I gauge that. Okay, I can move on to the next part. And some, if I've been only doing it and only done a light session in between, I could go in there and be like, right calf fine, left calf fine, move up, no problem in the and then it could be 5 minutes. But then there's days after a long session on a Sunday where I'm like, whoa, sore. And that's where I just spend the time to work with the foam roller, get the knots out of the muscles. It's like if people have, I don't know if anyone's ever been woken up in their sleep with a knot in their shoulder, or tension in their shoulders, and you can feel a knot in there. But they exist everywhere for me. My calves, hamstrings, quads, everything tightens up, backs and shoulders. And that's why I find by loosening out all those knots, getting the proper blood flow into the area, the muscles are working the way they need to be. We're going for an endurance race, so you want everything to be in the right frame and the right little base, I suppose, so you can try and do the best marathon time you can.
I find there's a fine line between getting the knots out and not spending too much time on that knot where I'm even more sore and inflating up a little more. I'd use I'd never pronounce it that way because I never played the sport, but sliotar, did you put 3 or 4 H's in there? Sliotar. I'd use that on my glutes. I'd literally 20-30 seconds, just one cheek, just roll around. Same, and people look, what is he at? But I find it helps do some out for me back and stuff, and I'd literally 20 seconds after using the foam roller, and I'm good to go there. Sorry, I cut you off or something, did I?
No.
Oh, sorry, I thought you cut you off there. I thought I just had to. Schlitter. Every day's a school day, and I learned something new there. Schlitter. That's what they say down in Kildare.
But you mentioned, I mean, that it's funny how we all use a similar product, but we use it completely differently. And you just alluded to it's about, I suppose, warming up for for purpose. So in the same way, I use the foam roller nearly exclusively for recovery, because I know that when we go out and do a pitch session, our warm up is going to be focused around warming up in a manner that's similar to how we're going to perform in the field. So that's why I wouldn't use it for a warm up. But obviously in the same way, Eric, because you're going to be jumping on a bike or something like that, or you're obviously going to be doing a gym session, it's so important to be able to warm up the muscles in a way that obviously it's going to be beneficial then for the activity you're going to undertake.
And you hit on as well part of your scale. I've never heard of the scale, and it's only that you've mentioned it. I was like, oh, I do that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. Like, in fairness,
I've racked up a few points there. And one of those would be, I suppose, I've got probably the sickest I've been in a long time. I rarely get sick, but took a dose of man flu and every flu and the whole lot attacked me. And since then, I've been very conscious of, well, how did I get so run down? One, diet probably wasn't great. Did a lot after Christmas. Probably wasn't getting in all the stuff, and I've started to take as well. I know other people do different things, but I've started using the Doterra oils. I've put up a couple of posts about them, but I suppose it's kind of like an experiment to myself to see, because I know my diet isn't great. I eat what I can, whatever is there. I'm not great at meal prep for now, but it will be something I'll change. I just kind of eat lunches in work, and whatever's on the menu, that's what I'm eating.
You're not a big vegetable person, are you?
I eat them because I know I have to.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be like, oh, I can't wait to get
a big head of broccoli, like, yeah.
You're going to give me a kilo of chicken wings or a kilo of carrots. I know which way I'm going. But it's I've started to take multivitamins, cod liver oils, stuff that I've neglected, to make sure that at least my body has everything, because we're talking about recovery. And when I'm getting my sleep, sometimes you can have a broken one, but I'm making sure that I have at least something in there, the vitamins that I need to recover. And I find Doterra, it's more the way they advertise, less chemicals, more the goodness, and it's oil based and it's more permanent with the cells. And so I'm trying it just to see. I'll let you know how it goes, but I have noticed a big difference in my energy levels. I've noticed my recovery is a lot better, my sleep is a lot better. There's little oils you can get, like lavender oils as well, that you just rub behind your ears and stuff before bed. And I haven't, not that I haven't had a dream, but I have slept the whole way through and woken up and been fresh. They've a lot of great things to do, and I know we're plugging them, and again we'll highlight that we're gonna, if I didn't find it good, I'd slate it. And that's what we're honest about everything we're talking about. But I have to say I've noticed a big difference, and probably a lot of people out there probably do neglect those other elements of their life in terms of recovery. Yeah, absolutely. And sleep, and you said, Seán, like, I mean, sleep is just it's the cheapest recovery tool that's out there. I disagree, because sadly I don't sleep very well. There was
You pay for sleep?
I pay for sleep, yeah.
Okay.
I'm free to pay for sleep.
I'd be waiting for a month. There's a business opportunity there.
But I went through a period of time where I was sleeping maybe 3.5, 4 hours a night. Like, I got to the point where it was just completely unsustainable. So I invested in two things. One was zinc and magnesium tablets. And obviously both are kind of, they promote good sleep and muscle relaxant. And the other thing was CBD. And look, I know it's a little bit of it's a hot topic at the moment. I'll say it right off the bat, it's not something that I'm completely sold on yet, because I think that a lot of people sell it as a kind of a miracle, a miracle pill, and it's a one for all wellness product. But what I do find is that it helps me get to sleep a little bit quicker.
Okay.
And that at least then I'm put into the frame of mind to sleep. So that's something that I suppose, again, it's not paying for sleep, but it's paying to promote good sleep.
Yeah, that makes sense. CBD oil is not something I have much. I know I'm not much experience with it. I do know some people that have used it for sleep, like yourself, anxiety stuff as well. But I'd be in no position to say, oh, it's definitely good for you, it's definitely bad for you, like that. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, and
to be totally honest with you there. Yeah,
and look, I mean, before I'd done a lot of research, and put some real time into research. And the brand I use, it's from two English rugby players actually, or one current rugby player. And no, it's not good to be promoting English products on an Irish podcast, but it's got 4 or 5 CBD. So the way it's tested and distilled, that it's absolutely 0% THC, so it's completely legal for professional athletes to use, and many do. And I do find that certainly putting me into a relaxed state to be able to get to sleep. I do think it works. Now, at the same time, there's been nights where I've had horrible sleep. So is it a perfect product? No. Do I think that it's it is this miracle drug? Probably not. But I find it works for me.
It's so hard to tell if something's working for you because not get to your point there, but usually if you do something like that, you're probably doing 2 or 3 different things as well with it. And it's like, what's the exact thing? Now, not saying you there, but just in general, if someone's like, this supplement's working great for me, and it's like, oh yeah, really, and you dig deep, it's like, yeah, no, I've started going to the gym now 3-4 times a week, and my sleep, I've changed my habits here and there. You're like, okay, is it this little supplement you're taking, or not degrade any supplement, but is it that, or is it how you've changed everything? Like, not to get into this minefield, but some people would say a lot of vegans are healthier. It's like, well, they made the mindset to eat that food, and why they made the mindset to do that, they also changed their lifestyle. They did this and this as well.
Well, I would say, we did the marathon last year. I would say that my build-up, my training, my lifestyle was a lot better then. However, I've probably got a worse lifestyle in terms of work is quite busy at the minute, and I had weddings and that, and there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. So taking these, I have noticed a difference in myself, in my energy levels. I don't like coffee, but I found I'd have to drink a coffee just to stay awake. Not for taste, I don't enjoy it. It's just a necessity, caffeine, and away I go. Whereas I found that need has left me, even though working more, training more. So that's why I'm happy to vouch. I don't like when I hear people talking about something that's just, when we talk about placebos. Is it a placebo? It could possibly that I think that, I'm doing better. But then when I break down everything I'm doing a hell of a lot more. Training schedules are a bit all over the place, late night, early mornings. But I'm not struggling anymore, and that's on the back of a sickness where I'm really conscious to take them to make sure that I'm giving the body every chance I can to recover. So that's why I'm kind of happy to say that the Doterra kind of thing, the daily essentials, it's actually kind of working. I find it gives me a little bit extra, and whether it's what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, whether it's cod liver oil or Centrium or whatever it is you're taking, if you feel good when you're on it and it's helping you make other positive changes, if by taking those daily tablets you're like, yeah, that's good, I'm giving myself that, and maybe I won't eat the sweets as well because that's just counteracting the good thing.
Yes.
One positive change can lead to many others, and whatever it is you do, I think it can all work. And on the other point then, talking into recovery and the essential oils and stuff, the creams we talked about for recovery, another great part I do think, and you've touched on it with the cold baths and the hot showers, I tend to use gyms that have saunas and cold showers. So after I've done my session, even though my heart rate would kind of up, and I find it really, really hard to sit into the sauna, but going from the hot to cold, I actually don't credit enough for the recovery and sleep. I find myself after going through the sauna, the hot, the cold, I'm ready for bed. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe everyone's different, but I am literally, I'm worried for the drive home. I'm like, I need to get home and get into bed as quickly as possible.
It's something that I would definitely dedicate more of the podcast to, because I'm such a big fan of saunas, and I genuinely think that it did help me get through the last marathon. I did because I signed up to the gym across the road for the sole reason of using the sauna. I maybe once or twice, genuinely, I used it because I had free access to my own gym with the personal training. I did maybe 3 or 4 runs in the treadmill, but it was genuinely the thing was the sauna. It was a cold shower into the sauna, and I want to have more of the studies and stuff why I think that on a future episode of the podcast. So I'm not saying stuff that's not true, but there is some incredible statistics on saunas, which is, it's insane that if I say out loud, I'll be like, oh, actually, is it really that high? So I want to get that in a future episode. Before we leave this week's podcast, I want to talk about 2 really quick things that you touched on earlier with your chart. One is Epsom Salt baths. Now, I used them after a big run. I used it after the last 2 marathons I did, the half marathon, and I've probably had around 4 or 5 in the last 2-3 years. I have no idea if they work. None. What do you guys think of that? Just out of curiosity.
Okay, I'll jump in because I suppose I've used them a couple of times, and in the same way I've used hot baths and Epsom salt baths, I do find that there's a difference with the Epsom salts now.
Really?
I'm trying to think now. It's something that isn't it? There's magnesium or something, or high magnesium or something that, and your body can absorb it, and thus decreasing muscle soreness. I think is the science behind it.
Right.
I don't want to swear to that, but I think that's what it is, which in principle makes sense. No difference to taking the magnesium tablets, which I do, but I have found that oftentimes recently and in the past, I would come off the field after a tough game. Picked up a couple of knocks or just my muscles were sore, and I would run a bath that would be as hot as I could possibly manage it, and have 2 cups of Epsom salt in it.
Yeah.
And after 15 to 20 minutes, I'd find that definitely I felt much fresher and my legs felt better. In the same way, taking a hot bath, I would feel quite good after it, but I wouldn't find that it had done the same level of good. So I certainly advocate Epsom salts.
Does anyone else be really stupid getting into a really hot bath, or is it just me that's a little bit like
well
any sort of
yeah, it's like you dip the toe and you're going
no, it's disgraceful.
Just to pick up on that, I just realised I have a laptop in front of me so I can check that out. Magnesium sulfate is an inorganic salt with the formula blah 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 blah. Basically that is Epsom salt, so it is definitely magnesium. And the last thing I would do
but just with that as well, you're taking 45 minutes to sit in a warm plane for your muscles and relax.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, you're Epsom salt or not, like everyone lives busier lives and everyone seems to be getting busier, but like taking 45 minutes to sit, soak your muscles, hopefully, as you've said, we look into the magnesium, but you're taking that time to just chill out.
You're de-stressing, aren't you? Yeah, which is good. And speaking of de-stressing, I think one of the tools that I use a lot, especially when I was doing personal training, is breathing. So when I finish a session with someone, I'd have them, I'd go off an app on it just because it's easier to cue it. They lie down, their feet up on the bench straight after their finisher, pretty much, or they might stretch a little bit, depends on the person. You take a big deep breath in for 3-4 seconds, you'd hold 3-4 seconds, slowly breathe out 3-4 seconds and hold. You do that 8 or 9 times and it would just get your heart rate from up here to like 80-90% to right down to 50-60, just because everything back going again instead of being all stressed and jittery back out on the road or wherever you have to go. And it has the same, not the same, but it's similar to what you were saying, Eric, with the cold water showers and the sauna. Just kind of relaxes you after a session and starts the recovery process for whatever you did during, whether it was gym, running, or whatever it is. Just kind of eases back into it. And to conclude the whole thing, I think it's recovery is just one of those things that no one really programs for, but if you did it a lot more, you could probably get a lot more out of your sessions and get more sessions to a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and do whatever makes you feel good.
Yes,
and that's the important.
That's it. And if someone says to you, well, this and this doesn't mean, says, the studies say this isn't good, this isn't good. If it works for you, it works for you. And there is something to that where if it's working for you for each and every session, just go with it. Kind of a long one today, lads, but
what did we do?
We're
so sorry.
Hitting the 30 minutes there in the podcast. Hopefully you guys got something of use out of that podcast. I know we had a bit of conflicting views, but you might find that
if you do, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Comment on the Instagram post we put this one up on. Let us know. Tag any of the 3 of us, because @AGR is not on Instagram just yet. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Maybe hitting us something there, Aaron. I don't know.
Probably not.
On that note, thanks for listening to the podcast. Thank you for sharing it. And from the 4 of us, take care. You've probably just listened to that episode and thought, okay, I got what I want out of it on recovery strategies. Where can you really go with that for a part 2? There should be just a part. That's it. Recovery strategies. In fairness, we went for a lot longer than we did. 30 minutes talking about that. There's really nothing else we could talk about. We had our own opinions on it. That's it. What you're about to hear is after I stopped the microphone and we were getting ready to do one more episode of the podcast. One out of the 4 of us didn't quite talk about his opinion, his true opinion on what he really felt, and you're about to hear what he really felt and why there's going to be a part 2 of the podcast, which I hope will be a bonus episode online from this Thursday. Thank you once again for listening to this week's episode of the podcast, and please do comment on the Instagram posts and all the rest on what you find are good recovery strategies that work for you, and we'll talk about them as well next week on the podcast. Take care.
always highly skeptical of all that shite.
Why?
The salts, the rubs. I don't know.
The O would be nice.
How's your calves?
Yeah.
The O
I'm
would
not
be-
talking about the foam roller. Foam roller is a physical thing, like.
It's myofascial release, yeah.
Do you know the O would have been absolutely brilliant, but just out of pure. I don't know if this ever crossed your mind. Saying that to the mic,
I don't know.
Yeah.
but that's
yeah.
that's genuine. That's what we want. I would.
People who are listening are going, I don't believe in that shit. And you need you to say that.
Yeah.
That is exactly how we're
These thoughts
starting.
go through your head and you're just sitting in silence.
That is exactly how we're starting.
You're
Actually, no, hang on.
I'm just like,
Getting annoyed.
should I
He's
really?
plugging something he feels
Hang on, no, genuinely.
We're even saying, do whatever works for you. You're just going to go,
I don't do that. I think it's bullshit.
Come on, man. I'm waiting for him to come back, and that is how we're starting the podcast. There is no right or wrong thing. We're not going to say anymore.
Okay.
We're going to save the podcast.